Welcome to another Teaching Tips from Mayo's Clinics, part of the Cafe Meeting Place website. I encourage you to look at other kinds of tips here. This is a place for you to learn about teaching, to expand your repertoire of teaching skills, or to consider things that you did before but forgot for a while. Remember that one of the critical aspects of teaching is to show your students that you care about them. Because if you care about your students and they know it, they'll listen to you, they'll learn from you, and they'll really respect your knowledge as well as your insights. Today we're going to talk about using small groups in classes. It's something that we think about all the time, but most of us haven't thought about the sequence of how we do it and what a difference that makes. Small groups are part of life in this industry. We need to do more of them. We need to know how to be good in working in small groups. So what we're going to talk about today is how we use them for discussion purposes in classrooms and how we can help students learn that. Why do we use small groups? Well, because if students talk about a subject together in a small group setting, they'll remember 70% of what they talk about. If they just listen to your lecture, no matter how good you are, no matter how brilliant you are, and you don't use any visual aids, they'll remember less than 50%. And we want them to remember a lot more, so put them in small groups. But when you put them in small groups, what you need to do is to think about how you organize those groups. One of the things I do is to line students up against a wall. And then I have them organize themselves in terms of height, without talking, so they have to notice each other, or shoe size. I don't do waist size, that makes some people very uncomfortable. But I do height and I do shoe size. I've also done home distance from home from where they're in the classroom, the number of years or months actually that they've been working in the industry, or any number of other things that distribute them arranged in a sort of arbitrary and capricious way, so it's not just the people that they're sitting with, talking with, hanging with at the same time. And then I go through and divide them into groups of 4 or 5 or 6, just according to taking them off the line. After I get them into small groups, then I give them the assignment. And that's the first rule to think about. Put them into small groups first, give them the assignment second. Many faculty members give them the assignment and put them in small groups, and once they get to small groups, they ask again, what's the assignment? Because they can't handle all of those things at the same time. Because it's a new group of students, they're not used to working with each other. They'll say hello, they sort of get settled, they get their notebooks out, etc. And then they say, well, what are we supposed to do and why are we supposed to do it, etc. So, the first thing is to get them into groups, let them get acquainted with each other, then give them the assignment. Third thing is make sure the assignment's clear. Don't say, well, talk about what you just read, or discuss your experiment in class, or discuss what you've learned about cooking. It's so vague, it's so unclear that they'll wander and they won't do something productively. As opposed to saying, compare what you did with what the demo was, or compare this dish with the 3 other dishes very similar to it, or what have we learned in class today that contradicts the theories that you read in the book. That kind of focus, that kind of clarity will make their discussions much more productive and much more effective. And then when they're in small groups, walk around, observe, listen to them, see what's happening. If you just look on the side and start to play with your notebook or see what's on your email, etc., they'll know that their activity doesn't count, it's not important, and it's not critical. And that's not very helpful because they won't take it seriously. If you walk around, you'll see who's participating, who's not participating, where you may need to teach them some small group skills. Things like starting a conversation, encouraging a conversation, harmonizing conflict, taking notes, bringing the group back to focus on the task at hand. Those kinds of skills you may need to review, you may need to talk about. In some groups, maybe other groups you don't. Or they get lost, or they get confused, and so you're walking around and you're intervening and observing will make a real difference. And then, because you're doing that, you can do the timing for them. You ask them to do the timing and take the notes and focus on that stuff. Sometimes our students aren't prepared to do all that kind of multitasking. We know they can do other multitasking, but not that kind of multitasking in the same kind of way. So, what we want you to do is to play that role as a timekeeper. And then give them a few minutes telling them the time is almost up, prepare their report for the class. And the last section is to facilitate their reporting out to the class. So each group will report on what they discussed or key elements, etc. If you have a lot of groups in a large group, ask each group to just make 3 statements, 3 key things. If you're getting the same redundant comments all the time, then suggest to them that they only add something that's different than what they've heard before. That gets them to listen to what they heard before and also gets them to watch what they do and don't say. And you don't hear the same and the same and the same idea one time after one time after one time. But you've got to facilitate that conversation, and then you want to take all of their contributions and bring it back to the purpose of what you're teaching. What is the learning objectives for the day? What are the goals you had for this lesson or for this class period, etc.? So you want to make those connections. So, if you're going to use small groups, remember to organize them first, give them clear assignments second, observe and intervene as appropriate, keep the time and facilitate the discussion. That way you'll have productive learning experiences and not just busy work or just added on time. It can make a real difference in the quality of their learning and the quality of what they remember. So try it, see if it works. If you have any comments or questions, or you want to improve on my ideas, send me an email at fred.mayo@nyu.edu. I'd be delighted to hear from you. And check out the other great ideas, especially the one on varying group formats on the CAFE website, www.cafemeetingplace.com. And remember, teaching is invigorating, challenging, and fun. So go out there and have a ball. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great time.